right. We're live.
intro.
TGIF. Think Growth. It's Friday, guys. Welcome. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. Our slogan here in the studio for Fridays is not only thank goodness it's Friday, but it's Friday. My second favorite F word. Maybe we should include that like somewhere. It'd be like a nice slogan. It's Friday, my second favorite. But then, of course, we'd have to figure out some way to include, growth or something like that in there. But guys, thanks for being here. Ken Wilson, thanks for being here, brother. Oh, Angel's here. Actually, I had talked with Angel a little bit this morning. I talked with Angel a little bit throughout the week, which is fantastic because she is an amazing human being. If you guys need help with TC work, if you guys are wanting to understand and get better at paperwork, there's this concept that has really helped all of us, myself. As you guys can see, we have an amazing guest on here with us today. But it's helped all of us scale our business. And it's a concept called who, not how. And there's an amazing book to actually go along with that. So if you guys are wanting to learn how to scale your business, understand that it's not you that has to do everything. And for me, actually, I was talking with Angel about this morning. Paperwork is like my kryptonite. I hate paperwork. I'm not good at paperwork. It's not a good use of my time. And I don't want to F it up. So I definitely work with Angel, and Angel handles a lot of my paperwork. Thank goodness. Love you, Angel. Thank you for doing that. You are amazing. Good morning, guys. So if you guys are new to the group or new to the podcast or new just to kind of how we stream here, there is a link. I would assume this Facebook user, I know from your end, you can see your name, but from our end, there's a link. I'm assuming you're watching this from one of our Facebook groups. So if you just at the top of the video, there's probably like a description or something like that. Then at the bottom of that description, there's a little link, and it says something along the lines of grant StreamYard access to share your name or something along those lines. So would love to know who you are. Would love to help in any way that we can. Please keep the comments coming, guys. We definitely want to engage with you guys. We got some amazing things that we are doing today. Miri, thank you for being here. Mary's another amazing individual. Love you guys. Thank you guys for being here. What? James Labella. So, guys, real quick, this is actually, let me go over a couple announcements real quick, and then we're going to kind of kick this off. If you guys don't know Jim, or Jimothy, as I like to call him, he is a phenomenal integrator. Literally, I can't tell you how hard it is to find a good quality integrator. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, man. Like, and James is like the Tom Brady, or for those of you guys who aren't I'm not a personal Tom Brady fan. It's not like I dislike him or anything, but I'm kind of like a Dan Marino kind of guy. He's the Dan Marino of integrator. So if you guys are a visionary, if you guys are looking for somebody to help generate, your systems and kind of streamline process, or you're looking for somebody to go partner with, go hit up freaking Jim Labella. I'm going to put him up here one more time so you guys can see his name, how you spell it. Go hit him up. He's an amazing integrator. Go hit him up. If you guys need some integration done, or you're looking to bring an integrator into your business, you're looking for somebody to partner with and build and scale something with, Jim, or Jimothy Labella is your guys' man. So definitely go hit him up. Let's see, what else do we got? We've got some awesome things coming up this week. One is called Network to Net Worth. If you guys haven't been watching that, please go join our Facebook group. It's actually called Network, and then the number 2, Net Worth. And basically the premise of this series that we've been doing every single week, including why everybody's in the Facebook group, is showing people how to monetize from building relationships. So if you guys want to go learn how to monetize and making it that's the only thing that you, not only are we showing you guys how to monetize relationships, but we're showing you how to build and scale an entire business from the ground up for free. And we're doing it for free. And this is all amazing. So definitely go join that group. If you guys are not part of our Growth Co. Facebook group, this podcast is brought to you guys by the Growth Co., which, if you guys don't know, is Carlin and mine's business. And we are helping people, a lot of real estate, investors, understand how to scale and develop their not only their business, but their mindset. And there's a lot of really fun and cool things that, we're doing for a lot of people. So it has been phenomenal, and we are growing it, and we are bringing more coaches on. I mean, this has been really exciting to be able to grow this. And so that's what this premise of this podcast is, and that's kind of what it supports, is your guys' personal development. As you guys can see today, some of the things we're going to be talking about include getting uncomfortable. I mean, what a topic. I know that was something for me that was extremely hard to wrap my head around, that you have to get uncomfortable to be successful. And depending on how willing, or I don't even know if you call it risk tolerant, but depending on how deep into the swimming pool you're willing to jump is how fast you'll also start seeing your business scale. So we got a guest, an amazing friend of mine, Mike Key. How you doing this morning, brother?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing better now that I'm talking to you. You know, when we jumped on right before we jumped in here, dude, you had a can, and it's 10:10 a.m. in Alaska. And I was like, holy torpedo, Batman. Mike is sucking back a beer already, dude. Think growth is Friday. I love it. Getting it on already this morning, but it turns out it wasn't a beer.
No.
He's doing 75 hard.
So quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah. Quite the opposite. It's just energy drinks. That's all I
A
pound.
little bit. So you're doing 75 hard right now. I mean, talk about uncomfortable real quick. You know, that actually may be a good segue into this, Mike, is the 75 hard. Explain for people who don't know what the 75 hard is, or who have never done it. Maybe they've heard of it. Because I know a lot of people who I've talked to that have heard of it. They look at the 75 hard, and I've even seen other fitness coaches throw shade at 75 hard, because they're like, oh, you guys and your fad internet diets and blah, 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 blah. But talk about that for a second for people who don't know what 75 hard is, because I think it's a good segue into our topic today.
I do have an opinion about it, but because I haven't fully completed it, I'm not going to throw shade just yet. Okay. I have a friend that, like I said, he had done the whole thing, and it's like, well, I don't particularly feel that the tasks are that hard, but I want to complete the whole thing so I can throw a little shade, because I do have an opinion on certain topics about it. But for what it is, if you don't know, it's 75 days of doing, let's see, you've got to follow a diet, any diet, doesn't matter. No alcohol, right? You got to read 10 pages of a book. You have to have 2 45-minute workouts, and you have to drink 1 gallon of water a day. I think that's every. Oh, and take a progress pic.
And what's the point of this? Is this just another fad diet for people to like get into shape?
Well, there's no diet, right? So you just follow any diet, right? Okay. Oh, no cheat meals is part of that, right?
Okay.
Follow a diet and no cheat meals.
Uh-huh.
So it can be any diet. And then what it's really supposed to do is like teach you consistency, because if you miss one item, you've got to restart all the way back to the beginning. And so the idea is that like you'll stack wins by checking everything off every day. And that by stacking wins, you'll develop, you know, that mindset of, hey, look, I can do really hard things. So like the 2 workouts, you can't do those back to back. There needs to be at least 3 hours between them. And the whole purpose there is that it's like, it's 75 hard, not 75 cupcake, right? It's not 75 convenient. Like 2 45-minute workouts, hours apart, is inconvenient to most people's schedule.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, so it's supposed to just help you develop that discipline and consistency, and like kind of teach you that. And Andy Versailles is the guy that came up with it, and he has like a book that he wrote for all his reasoning and logic behind it. But yeah.
Interesting. I know we were talking a little bit about it before we jumped on here, dude. It's hard, man. It's hard. A lot of people think that it's a fad diet. What people don't understand is that it actually has nothing to do with getting into shape. The entire intent behind it isn't so you get 6-pack abs. Yeah. And it's interesting though that becomes a byproduct of doing this, but really what it is it is a mindset challenge.
It's a mindset thing. That's what it is. It's a consistency mindset challenge, right? Because absolutely. Even the exercise part, he doesn't outline what you're supposed to do. You could do yoga stretches for 45 minutes and then go walk for another 45 minutes, right? It's just that you're supposed to be doing something. One of those workouts is supposed to be outside. I forgot that caveat, right? No matter the weather, because that's hard. That's like
especially if you live in Alaska.
Yeah, there you go.
We got to wait till the summer hits for us to do 75 hard, when it's, you know, you talked about convenience factor, right? I like to think of myself as like Rocky Balboa and Rocky IV when he's over in Russia. That's my version of like 75 hard. I got to go climb a mountain so I can complete my 75 hard. But yeah, I mean, I love 75 hard, man. It's a mindset. Like you said, it's all about, I mean, it gets you uncomfortable as hell for starters, you know, and I love the precedence that it sets, especially when it comes to the mindset side of things, because as we're growing our business, there are so many times when, and I know at least for me, and Carlin's the same. I know we've got 4 kids, we've got spouses that work, we've got school, we've got businesses that we've got to run, we got things that we're involved with, and we're all trying to play this big juggling game. And I know, Mike, you resonate with a lot of this as well. You know, there are days, especially if you guys have W-2s, when you come home and you're like, gosh, it's been a long day at work. The boss was really riding me. I had all these things going on. I had all these things that were due. I had to stay a little bit late. And then I get home and my kids have basketball practice, or my daughter's doing cheer right now, and my son has to be to school early because he's doing cross country. And so you got all these things that are you know, just happen because that's life. And then we've got to try to maintain some sort of consistency on top of that. And so that's one of the challenges that comes with, you know, the 75 hard, is finding a way to tell yourself, even when you're tired, even when you're like, I am so uncomfortable, I'm tired, I haven't slept, I'm sore from the gym, I don't feel like going out and doing a second workout, I was up at 3 a.m. You know, and then I've got to finish off, I got to polish off a gallon of water and hope I'm not up all night pissing. And I got to read 10 pages of a book as well, man. I mean, it's a lot to juggle. And there's a lot of comparisons that I have found between attempting that challenge and, you know, trying to run a business. Talk about being uncomfortable. Carlin, what are some of the things that you have done to kind of help maintain some of those consistent? Have you done 75 hard?
You know, the part that gets me, like, I can do the outside exercise. I walk my kids to school from time to time, and that's a literal uphill battle because they live at the bottom, or their school's at the bottom of the hill. The one that gets me is so I don't drink alcohol. That part was easy for me. So when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, how do I really challenge myself on this? And it's funny that you said you were drinking an energy drink, Mike, because that's actually what I substituted for alcohol. I was like, okay, I'm going to cut out all the caffeine. And that has been, that's been my caveat so far. Because, I mean, like Jesse said, 4 kids. So I try, I'll go like 2-3 weeks without the caffeine. And then days like today where I'm actually in Denver getting ready to go to a wedding. The whole family's downstairs. There's so much going on. I've got my 7-year-olds with me, and they're both real big talkers. So they're just like going AWOL. And I'm standing over here by the coffee machine like, okay, just one more. So that's the part that gets me on the 75 hard, because every time I think, I'm like, man, I'm really making progress on this. There's just that one slip up where I'm like, oh, but coffee. And so
that's it. Yeah. Because if you really think about the tasks, they're not really hard, but like,
nope.
Doing them when you don't feel like doing them, that's the real hard part, right? Like it's really mental stuff. And that's what I was telling my friends, like, I don't find this to be that challenging. When I find it to be challenging is all the times that I don't actually want to do it, right? I heard something when I was a young kid. It was feelings follow action, right? So like most people let their feelings lead their actions, but if you just do something when you don't feel like it, then you'll find that later you do feel better about it. Like, I don't want to work out this morning. Well, if you work out anyways, afterwards you'll feel good about working out.
Yeah,
that's true. I had leg day today. I feel great right now. Probably after I sit down a little bit later on today and try to get back up. Not gonna share the same sentiment, Mike, but point taken, bro. There is something that you posted on your Facebook this morning, man, that I just thought was so fascinating, and it's literally directly correlated with what we're talking about right now. And I'd love you to kind of talk about it a little bit more, but you said a lack of consistency hurts you more than a lack of resources ever could. What does that mean?
Man, I think a lot of people think that like what's holding them back is that they don't have access to stuff. So when we first got married, we lived in a trailer park. I don't live in a trailer park anymore, but I know that if I was to go back and visit that trailer park, a lot of the people that were there are still there. And a lot of it has to do with mindset. And another part of it is just like really being consistent in certain things. Maybe more mindset than other stuff, but it's not their lack of resources. Right.
What makes you say that for people? Because I remember the first time like jumping into real estate. I remember before I even jumped into real estate, my friend was introducing this concept to me of real estate investing. And I was in the military. I wasn't making a lot of money. People in the military don't make a lot of money. So I was telling him, I'm like, dude, it's not like I got just $100,000 burning a hole in my pocket so I can go buy a fourplex in Anchorage, Alaska. And you know, he was funny because luckily he was real patient with me because I just couldn't comprehend. I had a very scarcity mindset, you know, and that's how I grew up. I was really scarcity when it came to money, and especially when it came to resources and understanding, you know, mindset and what I was actually capable of. And one of the things that he said to me that I couldn't I couldn't wrap my head around until I got into this a little bit more was he said, dude, money is the easiest part of this entire thing. And I was like, what?
What?
How does that make sense? And it's interesting because that's true. What does that mean? Like for somebody who's watching this and they maybe somebody watching this right now or even in the future, when they hear that statement, they don't really comprehend it. What would you say to that person? Because you mentioned like it's the lack of consistency more than anything. There's no lack of resources. There's nothing but abundance, whether that's money, whether that's networking, whether that's relationships, whatever that is. What would you say to that person who's listening?
Man, so I come from like a blue collar background, right? And I think when you are blue collar, you have like that scarcity mindset. And there is a difference between how the rich and everyone else thinks. And you have to shift over into that. But like, so first you view the world with an abundance mindset. There's lots out there. But then the consistency part is realizing that you just need to figure out how to get that money, right? Like if we're all in sub 2 or whatever, or in real estate, everyone knows about private money lenders. You listen to Bigger Pockets or anything, everyone hears about OPM. But you're like, okay, how do I find access to that? Well, this is the consistency part, right? Like learning getting outside your comfort zone, learning to network, all these various things. But I don't know. I lost my tangent there. Sorry.
No, you're good, dude. You're good.
Yeah.
But I as somebody who's kind of gone through it, and Carlin, yeah, what is your perspective on it? I mean, because you came into this, you got connected, and that's where you were kind of introduced to all of this. And I think Mike's probably been doing this longer than you have. So what is your thought process on that when it comes to resources and understanding that it's a lack of consistency more than anything? And sometimes, well, I'm not even going to say sometimes I'll go ahead and say all the time that when people feel like they don't have the resources that they need, it's directly tied to what we're talking about. It's directly tied to being comfortable and not being willing to be uncomfortable. When you're willing to be uncomfortable, you'll start to see all these freaking resources just appear around you. But what is some of your experience with that? Especially with, I mean, you've only been doing this for, how long has it been now? A year and a half, maybe just shy of 2 years?
Just shy of 2 years. Yeah. We're actually coming up on 2 years since you and I connected, in like last week or something. I don't know. So happy friendiversary. I would say a lot of it, when it comes down to consistency, when you're not seeing the momentum that you think you're going to see, especially when you're seeing people posting like big fat checks, like, oh, I made $60,000 on this wholesale. And you come into this world and you think everything is successful because that's what people generally post is their success situations. You come into this and you go full swinging. I know I did this. I was on every challenge. I saw everything that was going on. The difference between me is I'm very competitive. So when someone says, you're probably not going to do this, my brain goes, yeah, okay, bet. But a lot of it comes into play where if you don't have your good support system, you don't have the friends that really keep you motivated, you get into this inconsistency where you're not getting those big fat checks. You're not getting the $60,000 check. You're not getting the results you want because maybe you've only been doing it like 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so your momentum slows down. It's like pulling up to a stoplight. You see the yellow light, you start slowing down. When I see that yellow light, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna punch it. Nobody goes to the intersection. Like,
yellow does not mean slow down. Where Carlin went to driving school.
I'm from New Mexico. Red doesn't even mean
yellow
slow
is
down.
For it.
Yellow means speed up. Duh.
Red is slow down.
So when most people are seeing that yellow light, they're like, oh, I'm losing my energy, I'm losing my momentum. And when you start losing that energy and momentum, that's when you really have to play that factor, like what you said earlier, Mike. You really can't slow down, because even if you're slowing down, you're going to follow your emotions. Your emotions are saying, well, this isn't working, this isn't successful, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to redirect, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to change my direction. And especially if you only been doing it for like 30 days, don't do any of that. Don't change your direction, don't pivot, don't slow down for the yellow light. Speed up, hurry up, keep pushing, make sure your vehicle's still in motion, because that's where you lose all of your momentum, is when you follow your emotions into your actions. And I've done it a million times. Jesse's been the victim of my mental beatings more than once. So from my experience, when I catch myself slipping, especially into that mental state where I'm like, oh man, I'm not getting the success I want, my brain goes, I keep my journal with me. Everyone who knows me knows the journal. I look back and I'm like, oh, I've only been doing this for like 40 days. I still have another 50 days before I'm even allowed to beat myself up about this. So being able to recognize the patterns and recognize how long you've been doing something, how long other people have been doing things. Like I saw a post the other day that someone was like, I can't even get this. Like, everyone's getting these huge checks. And I think, Mike, you actually might have commented on it. They said, everyone's getting these huge checks and I can't even get a deal. And the comments were incredibly fabulous, because everyone's like, you don't know how these people are getting the checks. You don't know what kind of consistency you have. You don't know their day-to-day schedule. You don't know their life. You don't know what they're doing. They could be someone that's on the phone sun up to sundown, and they're getting those checks because they're working their ass off for it. And when they see that yellow light, they don't stop. They speed up.
I discovered that early on. I was talking to someone and I'm like, how many people are you talking to? Because I was talking to 10 people a week. And he's like, oh, I'm having a conversation with 200 people a day, or 200 dials a day. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That's radically different from what I'm doing. So even if you're not getting the results, like, be honest with yourself about your own consistency or how much effort you're putting in, because sometimes it takes a really long time to see results. And then I think about fitness a lot, like fitness is the one area where everyone's selling a 30-day plan. Here's a pill and whatever results. And like, if you think about bodybuilders and what it takes to stand on stage, that takes a really long time. Those people usually have spent like 10, 15 years lifting weights to like have to look like that. I don't look like any of that, but like,
we haven't done the 75 hard yet. Give it 75 days first, Mike.
That's right. Yeah. I think about fitness a lot because it's like one of these areas where everyone's looking for a shortcut, and then no one, the results actually take a very long time of boring, consistent work.
That's the thing, man. And I think that's that like setting proper expectations right there. Like, you had this epiphany. You're like, oh, wow, I'm talking to 10 people a day and I should be talking to several hundred. I'm like what is that, 1/20th of where I need to be. And it really kind of puts things into perspective for you to be able to look at things through a different lens. And you're like, oh, wow, it's not that this is, I've just got to solve this problem. I'm looking at it in the wrong light. It's interesting because do you guys, oh man, I don't remember this guy's name. There's a story. You guys know who David Goggins is? Mm-hmm. Talk about the father of discomfort. Oh my gosh. I learned so much from that guy. I mean, I could go on an entire week with just stories from David Goggins and like big key takeaways. But there's two big stories that I want to, oh my God. Dude,
that's on mine too.
Have you read his second book as well?
No, I didn't know there was a second book.
Oh, dude, you got to go get it. It's so good. Actually, you know what? I'm going to write this down. I can remember to come back and share the story with you. But one of the things, man, This is why like mindset, self-development, growth, and being able to see things and understanding things from a different perspective is so important. Because when it comes to being uncomfortable and understanding what your true capabilities really are and the importance of being surrounded by the right people who understand what those limitations really are and they can help pull you up is so stinking imperative. And there's a story, some guy, I forgot his name, it's going to come to me as soon as the podcast is over, but this individual invites David Goggins over to live with him for a month because he just wants to change up his schedule. He wants to learn from David Goggins like what everything looks like, and how to really change up the monotony of his day and where he can grow and where he's lagging and all this kind of stuff. And on day one, as soon as they walk into his house, they've got one of those pull-up bars that you put in the door jamb, and David Goggins says, all right, get up here. Gosh, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but he says, go ahead and get up here and see how many pull-ups you can do. And so the guy goes, I think he said he did like 12, 13 pull-ups or something like that. And he says, all right, he waits 30 seconds. And he's like, David Goggins tells him, he said, okay, get back up on there and do it again. And he goes on in there again and he cranks out maybe another 7 or 8, waits 30 seconds, does it again, squeaks out 3 or 4, waits 30 seconds, does it again, can barely get 1. And then once he gets to that point of complete mental exhaustion, most people, whether this is in business, whether this is in their life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in the gym, they get to that point and their mind tells them, hey, we're done. We can't do anymore. We've done all that we can do. We are exhausted. You couldn't even do 1. And what was interesting was David Goggins tells this individual, he says, oh, there it is. There it is. Jesse. Thank you, Hedge. Yep. Jesse Itzier, something like that. Yeah, that's his name. So he tells Jesse, he says, okay, you're going to get back up here on this pull-up bar and we are not leaving here until you crank out 100. So even if it's only 1 at a time, like just going through that is like, oh my gosh, I am capable of so much more. I'm leaving so much on the table. And when you come home tired at the end of the day and you don't feel like making calls, or you don't feel like, your kids are screaming in the background and you got a Zoom meeting set up with somebody else. A lot of people's first mental thing is just to go, man, you know what? I'm exhausted. I've got so much going on today. Look, can we reschedule this call? I can't do this. I got blah, 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 blah. And you never know when little things like that, like I'm a firm believer that one conversation with the right individual can change your entire life. And so when you allow those little things to inconvenience you to the point where you can't even get on there and have a conversation and see who you can serve, those are the little things that make the biggest differences and the most impactful differences in our lives and in our business. And speaking of David Goggins, you brought that book out. There's another book. His second book is called Never Quit or Never Done or Never. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Never something. You have to look it up.
Give up.
No, I don't think it's Never Give Up. Never Finished, I think is what it's called, actually. I think it's called Never Finished. So one of the stories that David Goggins tells in the intro to this book is he tells a story of some scientists who had some lab rats. And what the scientist does is he fills a bucket of water and he puts these lab rats in there. And he lets them swim, and he lets them swim, and he lets them swim, and they're getting exhausted. And you're seeing these rats like dive down. I guess they're good swimmers or something. They dive down and you can see them kind of just looking for an escape hatch all over this place. Can't find one. And within like 2 or 3 minutes, all of them drown. And so he repeats the cycle just to have what's that called? What do they call when they run in a constant? So he repeats the cycle. Same thing happens. Like all these rats are drowning in like 2 or 3 minutes. They just give up. And he does the same thing again with another batch, except right when they get to the point to where they're getting ready to give up and drown, he saves them. He pulls them out of the water. He dries them off. He lets their heart rate return back to normal, gives them some food, gives them some assurance, and throws them back in the water. And he repeats this a couple different times where right to the point where they get exhausted, he saves them and does the same thing, dries them off, lets their heart rate return back to normal. He does this a couple times. And then the last time he throws these rats back in there and something very interesting happens. not only did they not swim for more than 2 or 3 minutes, some of them swam up to 80 hours. I think there was one. I think they were averaging like 60 hours or something like that. But one of them, or no,
I've
it wasn't.
heard this story before, and I think they were increasing the time in the experiment.
Yeah,
showing that they have more in them than they realized.
100%, dude.
Their hope increased,
and there's nothing that changes.
Yeah,
there's nothing else that changed in their circumstance in their world other than their mindset, their willingness to do whatever it freaking took to survive. Or wait, no, I said 80 hours, 80 minutes. I think it was 80 minutes. 80 hours, that would be crazy, man. Swam for days. No, 80 minutes, but no food, no water, no break, no nothing, man. Sorry, Carlin, go ahead.
I said, well, they got it on the Navy SEALs then.
Yeah.
80 hours. Man.
Yeah, but crazy though, man. Just what can happen? What you're truly when you're okay with being uncomfortable, and you're willing to do anything and everything that it takes in order to get to where you're trying to go to accomplish. Like if these rats can do it, like imagine how short you are selling yourself just because you're slightly inconvenienced, because you're tired a little bit. You know what's interesting? One of the
doing ice baths.
Do what?
This is why I started doing ice baths.
Okay, see, here's my frustration with ice baths, Mike. I want to do them because I've actually read the book, The Wim Hof Method, and it goes into very full detail about the benefits of the ice bath. I'm literally allergic to cold water.
What? How is that even possible?
It's a very, very uncommon thing called cold urticaria. And it is so frustrating. Like if I put an energy drink, if I'm holding a cold can on my arm for a minute, that spot and only that spot breaks out in hives.
That's bonkers.
So here's where this gets a little bit interesting in my brain, because I'm like, okay, so I know the medical benefits of this. I wonder if I could eradicate this allergy because of the benefits of the medical side of things. But at the same time, I'm like, it really hurts. It really, really hurts.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what temperature, like when you're like, when my kid, you know, it's funny, my kids even started doing this, and it's like, not to like deviate on this thing, but it's so cool when we talk about getting uncomfortable and doing all these different things and staying consistent with it, the impact that it has on my kids. Like it is the coolest thing from a parent to be able to see this on like how they act, their behavior, their leadership skills, how they think, how they process information. It is truly incredible. And my kids even do cold showers now. So we have these competitions where between my three oldest, where they see who can stay in the shower the longest without getting out. And dude, we have well water. It's like 40 degrees outside right now, by the way. It's like 43 degrees or something outside, and we have well water up here in Alaska. So it comes out like super, super cold. Like it is really cold up here. Our cold water is really cold. And so we have competitions every single week to see who can stay in the longest, and the longest gets a smoothie at the end of the week. So, but it's neat to see how all those effects have on our kids. But when you're in the shower, Carlin, and you change the temperature from like hot to you start getting cold, at what point is it like, okay, this now is becoming an issue?
So I actually used a lake one time as my test dummy. So I went to the same spot at the lake at different points in the year. And I found that if the water's below 72 degrees, that's when the hives start.
Below 72 degrees? Oh my gosh, man. So you're like eliminated from all water that's not in Arizona or New Mexico. Got it.
Nah, or I could just take a crap load of Benadryl and really hope that I don't fall asleep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you could. You could. Mike, real quick, dude, you have some amazing freaking, like, I love your mindset. I love your insight, and I love the way that you perceive things. I wanted to read something else that you also posted this morning, and I think it was probably where you're going with it. But you said when you come from a blue collar background, being successful or having money is seen as a negative in a way. Talk about that, because I've got some experience with that myself, man. And that alone can make you very uncomfortable, and that uncomfortable feeling and the anxiety that couldn't come with that, is enough to keep you stale and keep you stagnant.
Well, you were talking about success, and I was thinking a little bit about that. Like, so one, I think when you come from like that background, sometimes you miss out on opportunities because you view everything as a scam. So, right. Oh, you view other people's success as a scam. Oh, Pace Morby, that guy's a scam, clearly. All these people posting all their deals, scammers, right? Rather than going, well, what if it's true? What would that mean for me? And so, and then the other thing too is like, I almost feel like everyone who's blue collar wants to be rich. So you're spending everything, you're maxing out your credit cards and everything. But at the same time, you view rich people as like also bad in a way. I don't know. I feel like I should have a deeper thought on that, but.
Well, I definitely resonate with that, man. I mean, when you're talking about this, I grew up in the same way. Like, money was something that wasn't talked about in our household. It was treated, I always say, it was treated like a 4-letter word, like a cuss word. And I grew up in a house and had, friends and family that was very scarcity minded. You didn't talk about money. You didn't ask people how much money they were making.
There you go. Yeah.
You worked your entire life. You worked 40, 50 hours a week for 40 to 50 years. And the only way that you can make more money is if you either work overtime, you get promoted, or you go get a college degree.
You work harder. Yeah.
You work harder. And it was interesting, man, because I grew up that way. I went to an average school. I had average friends. Actually, as a matter of fact, man, my grade point average in school was probably average like maybe a 2.4 or 2.5. Like, I was just probably just slightly below, like, I don't know. Maybe, is that average? I think 2.5. Maybe
I dropped out in the 9th grade, so I don't even know. I didn't even finish.
Maybe like a C+ student. Occasionally I'd have a B in a couple subjects, and I always got an A in PE. Actually, as a matter of fact, true story, senior year, I took a walking class. I always tell people, I almost got to be in walking class because I thought about running. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to walk. And then I got out of there with an A. Squeaked by with an A in walking class. But it was interesting, man, because that's how I grew up. That was my mindset. And a lot of people, I didn't consider myself a very smart person. And there were people that I went to school with, bro, that I would put on a pedestal. They were they were doing like trigonometry, and I'm in pre-algebra, and I'm like, fudge, dude, like these guys are just wicked smart. And I thought of myself and I legit thought for the majority of my entire life, bro, that there were smart people and there were just dumb people, and I was just somewhere in between.
Oh man, that's the fixed mindset thing, right?
It is, dude. Yeah,
I think that's what we all like. It's prevalent in the middle class is to have that fixed mindset. Like, this is just what I am and I can't change. I'm going to be this way forever. It's like,
I love your Idaho accent, by the way, man.
With that accent, right?
That's my Virginia accent.
At Jefferson County right there.
That's right.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. That's how I grew up. And I had no idea that you could change. But it was interesting because after I joined the military and I started going to school, took me 8 years to get my degree. I've got 3 degrees now, but it took me forever. But what was interesting going through that process, though, Mike, that I found out about myself, even though I consider these degrees a big paperweight and they will never do anything for me, what I learned from that process was something that was very interesting. It had nothing to do with the actual education itself, but going through the process of being uncomfortable. Because my wife is one of those people that is smart. She is book smart. She is school smart. Something that would take her 30 minutes to do would take me 3 hours to write this freaking paper.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
But it was what was really interesting was going through this process, man, was I discovered about myself was that I was willing to put in the 3 hours that it took me to write the paper all through college. And I walked out of there. I graduated with 1B, bro. I had a 3.9 GPA, summa cum laude, and I was on the dean's list. I did all these things, but I figured out that, dude, I'm willing to put in the work. And when I was going through this process and I finally got my degree and I saw my name on the dean's list and got this award and all these things, I thought back to all those people that I grew up with, Mike, that I had put on a pedestal and that I had thought was legit smarter than me. It was this big thing, this big like mind blown moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have a say in what I do and who I can become. I'm capable of so much more than I ever freaking thought. And I look back to all those people that I used to put on a pedestal, bro. And I look at them now and I'm like, not only did I fucking catch you, but I surpassed you. And when you, it's funny just having those little insights and those little moments, that clarity, it affects you in so many different ways. I mean, it gives you confidence to go out and do something and tackle the next big freaking thing. And one of the things that I've started doing in my life is waking up at 3 a.m. And just that alone, bro, just knowing that I'm willing to wake up at 3 a.m. is the same thing. Like other people that I put on a pedestal that I see doing, I'm like, I've got you, dude. And not only will I fucking catch you, I will surpass you because I'm willing to simply get my ass out of bed at 3 a.m. when I know nobody else is. Even if I did nothing, bro. Even if I did not work on my business, even if I didn't do jack shit at 3 a.m., just the freaking fact that I'm willing to get up has allowed me to overcome so many mental hurdles and obstacles, especially when it comes to being uncomfortable. That alarm goes off, whether people are getting up at 3 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or, you know, that movie Ted, it's funny because he makes a joke. He's like, Lori, can you set the alarm for 11 a.m.? I've got a lot of shit I got to do tomorrow. But sometimes you have those people, man, you know, and just having the confidence to be willing to say, hey, you know what? It's cold outside. I'm uncomfortable. It's nice and warm in my bed. My family's sleeping. I could sleep for another 4 hours and feel great tomorrow, or I can get my ass up now. I can do something uncomfortable. And at the same time, I know that it's going to give me energy. Just like you were talking about, Mike, going to the gym, even when you don't want to, you come out of it and you're like, man, I'm so glad I went. I feel so freaking good right now. Same thing, dude. Like when I started waking up early and started looking at people that I started catching and then surpassing simply because I was willing to do things that they weren't willing to do. It's crazy. You just put your mindset. It does, man. Oh my gosh. It snowballs. Yeah.
And it's the most important when you don't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you have a negative, right? And it's taken away from you. But when you show up and have like a mediocre workout is okay, because 1% is better than like negative 10% because you skipped one day and then skipped another day, right? You have a bunch of 1% is way better. And then, you know, maybe you have that day where you went 110% in the gym. That's great. But like those little 1% are the wins versus, you know, taken out, right?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I've also David Goggins. I just love David Goggins. It's just he is so relatable when it comes to getting uncomfortable. And oh man, he shared something. I'm trying to remember what it was. I just lost my train of thought. Oh man, he shared something. And I was like, dude, this is going to be so good. I want to share this. Gosh, I can't remember what it was now. But yeah, no, you're right, dude. It's all about being 1% better. And I think a lot of people are when they come home and they're tired and they don't want to do something, they don't want to make the cold calls, they don't want to have the conversations. They just it's the weekend, man. I don't want to freaking do anything on the weekend. I mean, that's just being willing to. You're not always going to be motivated. I think a lot of people see posts on Instagram of people in front of Lamborghinis, and it's tied to the word wholesaling. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna jump into the wholesaling, and I'm gonna make all this money." And then this is the life of an entrepreneur. And to your point, Mike, that's why you're not always going to be motivated, and that's why it's so important to be disciplined, to develop these habits, to be around the right people who can support you, who can boost you. Carlin, how's that affected you? I know when it comes to mindset, like that's one of the things that I really love about you, and I've learned so much from our friendship and growing with you, is the things that you do and the intentionality you put behind your mindset and the things that you're doing to make sure that you're around with the right people and you are becoming that 1% better every day.
Growing up, I spent a lot of my time around not the right people, and making that shift from being around the people who get to that hurdle, they get to that obstacle, and instead of trying to find the solution or figure out how to resolve that issue, they sit in front of it and they sit and they complain, and getting stuck around that kind of people, that's where you get slowed down, because you get stuck there. You're, oh, well, I can't believe this happened, and did you see that, and I can't even believe this. And instead of trying to resolve that issue, it just becomes a giant whine fest. It's like talking to a group of toddlers where they're just so upset and they're so frustrated. And instead of being able to figure out how to get over that hurdle and figure out a good way to articulate that situation and combat it, they sit and they just dwell on it. And when you're around that kind of person, that's the way your attitude becomes. You create your own toxicity, basically. It's kind of like a puffer fish, almost. You become a puffer fish. Like, you make yourself sick. And it's not fun by any means. So when you start putting yourself around the right group of people, you really start seeing how, instead of sitting there and complaining and whining and feeling sorry for yourself that this obstacle is in your way, you go, okay, well, if here's an obstacle, that's a challenge. Well, there's your stoplight. You're not going to stop at that. You need to go forward, punch it, go through the yellow light. And I've really enjoyed my journey through mindset and self-development, because I get to meet all these cool people. I get to meet Mike. I got to meet you. I get to see the changes my husband's making. And it's just it's, when you're reflecting on it, it's honestly beautiful. Like, you can see the way your brain develops. And when that kind of person comes back into your life, and don't get me wrong, I do have people that show back up and they're like, oh, I feel so, oh, this is happening and this is happening. And I think I'm their least favorite person to talk to at this point, because they come to me thinking I'm going to sit and complain with them. And my response is usually, well, what are you going to do to change it? How are you going to fix that? And then they usually drop back off, because they're like, oh, well, that didn't go the way I wanted it to.
They want sympathy, not an ally. You're being an ally. I don't know who I heard this from recently, but I think it was Bedros Koulias, that you don't want friends because they're just going to reinforce all of your, oh, I just feel tired. Oh, you're right. I would feel tired too. That's okay, right? And what you really want are allies, people that are going to call you out on your shit.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, dude? To go along with that, and then I want to answer this question too. I'd love to get yours and Carlin's perspective on this question, and then I'll answer it as well. But you talk about accountability, and because I think accountability ties right into directly with overcoming that comfort zone and getting out and being uncomfortable. And there was an individual in our sub 2. I actually want to go back. I need to go back and address him. I haven't had a chance to go back yet, but he asked a question. He said, "Hey, like, I need some accountability." And my initial thought process is, there's a lot of people, I think, that put together and they reach out to people and they're building their own group, I guess you could say, their own accountability group. But it's not like really an accountability group, like you said, Mike. Like, they put this group together, and when they don't say what they're going to do, there's no really accountability or effects that happen of them not fulfilling their commitment. It's just kind of like, oh no, I get it. I had a hard work today, or I had a hard day at work too, or dude, the kids are so busy. Totally get it. There's no repercussions for that accountability system. And the way I kind of thought about it as he was asking for this accountability, I had this epiphany. I'm like, it's all the way that I have reframed to see accountability. When somebody says, I want to be held accountable, it's almost the equivalent of, let's say you were a head coach of like a football team. And it's your job that year to have a winning freaking team. That's the entire goal, obviously, of being a coach. You want to build a team that wins. Now, you're sitting here saying, hey, I want accountability. The way I see it, there's 3 levels of accountability. And one is like, all right, do you just want somebody to come into the stands to support you at the games, to be there at practice and just cheer when you guys do good and just, basically be there around you, whether you're succeeding or losing. That's kind of that first level of accountability. And then you have a second level of accountability that's like, all right, now we've got some cheerleaders. We've got people who are coming in and, they're giving you and your team pep talks, before and after practices and at halftimes during the games and things like that. And then there's a third level of accountability where it's like, if you don't, kind of like a Remember the Titans type deal, dude, where it's like, if you don't win, then you're out. You're done. Now, at the same time, with that level of accountability, we can either go and we can win, and you can be uncomfortable as hell, and you're going to learn more. You're gonna be uncomfortable like you've never been uncomfortable before. You're gonna be tired as hell every single day for that season, or for that year, or whatever it is, whatever length of period it is that you're wanting to, that your goals are set. But at the same time, you will do more growing and you will make more money in that period if you're willing to be held accountable to the highest level possible. And so in order to achieve that, it's very important to make sure that you have those ultimatums in place to where it's like, hey, if you don't do this, you're out. You're out of the group. We are growing without you. Somebody else will come in and take your place. You're done. But a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people want the cheerleaders. They want the people showing up in the stands and saying, woohoo. Or, hey, we'll get them next time. There's no excuse. The great thing about this whole thing is as long as you don't quit, you fucking win, dude. And if you're willing to be the type of person that'll hold you to the highest level of accountability, you would be so amazed at the amount of growth that you would undergo. You won't even recognize yourself. And as somebody who plays at that level, I can say, especially even over the last 14 months, I've done more growth and have made more money and more progress in myself and in my business than I did in 14 years in the Air Force.
I mean, have you ever seen a cheerleader practice, though? Like, if you're going to do something, go practice with the cheerleaders, because I've seen those women eat it. Like, they hit the ground hard, and they're just like, oh, darn, my shoulder's dislocated. Let's try and do that flip again. Like, don't ask for the cheerleader. Go work out with them. Go practice with them, because they're doing some crazy stuff.
I love it. So let's get to this question. I think this is a really good question. Mike, I'd love to get your perspective on this, and then Carlin as well. Angel Reyes, thank you for this question. If you guys got more questions, by the way, throw them in the comments. We'd love to kind of address some of these things as it relates to this topic of being uncomfortable. But he says, everyone talks about winning the day. What about winning the night? How do you guys prepare for the next day? What are some things that you do? That's a really good
question. That's a really good question, because I actually struggle with that. And I was reading something recently from Dr. Benjamin Hardy that talks like how you end your evening really determines your next morning, particularly.
Yep.
And so I struggle with that because like I'm kind of a night owl and I want to be up till 1 a.m. And then if you do that, what happens? Like that 4:30 a.m. Well, it's gonna be all emotions, like really dragging me down. And so in my house, like recently we turn off screens and all devices at 6. Like, and we set a bunch of intentionality behind winding down and like preparing for the next day. And one of the things I've started doing is like journaling in the evening, like writing out my 3 wins for the day, and then writing out my 3, like, what are the 3 things I also want to do tomorrow? Right. This way I'm like priming the mind. I'm letting go of the day's problems or whatever comes to mind. Also kind of like reminding myself, like, what were the wins for today? Right. Being grateful, and then also like priming myself for tomorrow so I can go to bed and just, peaceful out. But at the same time, that's going into your subconscious. So as you sleep, you're kind of aware of like, this is how I plan to start tomorrow. So it's just being intentional in your evening, and it kind of sets the tone for the next day.
100%.
Yeah.
Dude, so I love that. I love that. Carlin, I know as soon as Mike mentioned journal, like the journal queen, man, of course she's getting all giddy and shit.
Like, oh, Mike, you just you became my best friend, man. Like,
do you want to go do karate in the garage?
Dude, you want to go look at journals at Walmart? Let's go look at. There's a sweet book section in Walmart. No, I'm close to on par with what.
Oh no!
Oh, dude.
What happened?
I don't know where she went, man. Oh, classic.
Womp
I'm sure
womp.
she's gonna jump back on here. Must be them. She's probably has Alaska interwebs down there in New Mexico, so that makes sense. But I don't know where she went. But and while we wait for her to come back, I'll go ahead and answer that. I do a lot of the same things that Mike mentioned. I love I do journaling in the evening, and one of the big things that I do, like you said, to prime your mind for the next day, and to exit the day. I start the day in gratitude, and I exit the day in gratitude. And the way that I do that, a big way, is by documenting what your top 3 wins are for the day. That's the last thing I do. And I don't do it on my phone. I don't journal on my phone. I journal, I write it down with pen and paper, and I journal that thing. And a lot of times when you're journaling your top 3 wins, that doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, I bought a property today, or I got this under contract today, or I negotiated it today. Sometimes it means that you took a big fat L, but if you were intentional with that L, you learned from it. And that in and of itself was a win, because you're going to set yourself up for being that 1% better tomorrow when you wake up. So I love that you mentioned that. One of the things that I have in my phone, I have an app that helps me keep organized. I'm very structured in my day. I time block like nobody's business. And I have this app. It's called Todoist. Not to-do list, Todoist. That really helps me out. You got that app?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I use that as a capture system, though. So
I don't know what
anytime
that
I have
means.
like an idea, I just put it in there. I don't actually use it as a to-do list. More of like a capture system. So like I
use my
capture
notes app.
ideas.
You don't use your notes app for that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but no.
Oh, okay. Anyway, tomato, I guess. But the Todoist is great. I guess if you want to use it to capture your ideas, or whether you want to help you keep you organized, it's a great app to have. It's free. And I schedule my entire day. My entire day is time blocked using that app. And I download it as a widget, which is really great because I have it on my home screen. And you got like 10 different home screens, right? So I have it on my main home screen. So anytime I unlock my phone, I see what my next appointment is, what my next call is, what my next is. And so it really helps keep me organized. But the last thing that I have on that, and it's a repeating reminder every single day on that app, is at 2100, which is 9 o'clock at night. It is check tomorrow's tasks. So right after I do my journaling, I document my top 3 wins, and I check tomorrow's tasks. So I'm able to see what I have going on the next day. I end my day in gratitude, and I think about I'm already prepping for the things that I have coming the very next day. And so that's one of the things that I like to do as well for winning the night, I guess you could say. But no, I think that was a great question, Angel. So I'm just kind of rushing through. We got a lot of comments. Thank you guys for being here, by the way. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are getting value out of today's conversation. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a huge topic that I know Mike and I are both very passionate about when it comes to, being uncomfortable, because it's in those uncomfortable moments where we do the biggest amount of growth, man. And community is so important for that. Because if you're surrounded by people who are going to hold you accountable to that highest level, and they're going to continue pushing you, and they're not going to give you and I get it, man. Like the new, I don't even know what new TV shows are out right now. All I watch is Seinfeld. I try to maybe watch an episode, a 20-minute episode of Seinfeld, like right before I go to bed. It's like the last thing that I do. I actually fall asleep to it. So I almost said the new episode of Seinfeld is out, so I missed doing X, Y, and Z today, but that show hasn't aired in over 20 years or something. So. But anyway, man, I'm just kind of going through the comments real quick right here. Well, I'm doing that. Mike, is there anything that you want to add? I know we're at about time. So anything you want to add right before we jump off, or anything else you'd like to, any wisdom or anything you'd like to share with everybody?
And get used to being uncomfortable and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, because it's where you grow the most. I'm an introvert naturally. And so like networking was always a hard thing for me to do, but I would just force myself into like rooms with people, and to make it slightly easier for myself, I'd find the person that was like the guy that's always talking with everyone, go be his friend and stand next to him, and then find places to interject. So like if you're an introvert, that's a great way to network. Find the guy that's the most starts all the conversation, be his friend, and then interject. It's easy.
There you go.
You learn to get uncomfortable in these situations, and by becoming uncomfortable, you eventually become comfortable and you develop confidence. So
100%. Yeah, I have nothing else to say to that, man. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's really interesting, like how your mind starts to change, what you think you're actually truly capable of. Well, I guess on this note, I'm gonna give you guys something that Pace gave me last year, and I've shared with this. It's probably, I don't have any tattoos, but if I was gonna get a tattoo, I would tattoo this on my body because it's had that significant of an impact on me when it comes to the things that we're talking about, and some of the things that Mike has brought to light today as well. Is it's not who you think you are that's holding you back. It's who you think you are not. If you're not the type of person that can go out and drink a gallon of water a day and read 10 pages of a book and dedicate 45 minutes doing 2 different workouts, every single day for 75 days, that's literally the type of stuff that's holding you back. But if you can break out and become that person, Jim Rohn said it best. You have to, if somebody hands you $1 million, you have to become a millionaire so that you can keep the money. So you have to become this entirely different person if you want to make this caliber of money. And until you make that change, until you make that shift, you're not in alignment with making that kind of money. You're not the type of person that can not only handle it, but you can't build it. You don't know how to network. You don't know how to become that leader. You don't know how to provide value. You don't know how to do all these things. And becoming that person and doing all those things is through discomfort. If you're somebody who doesn't, if you're an introvert as an example, and you don't like talking with people, that's something to some degree you have to get over. It's not like you have to be this big enthusiastic person and you got to have a podcast and do all this stuff. That's not at all what we're getting at. But you have to, there's going to be some level of discomfort that you're going to have to get over when it comes to networking and building relationships, because I don't remember who said this. I think it may have been Carlin. I think it was Carlin, but she said real estate is not a monogamous relationship. I was like, dang, that's dope. I really like that. She's got a bunch of good one-liners. But I love that. So anyway, leave that with you guys. I hope you guys have an amazing Friday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If this is your guys' first time here, please subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. If you guys are not part of our Growth Co. Facebook, guys, please join. Would love to have you guys there. Mike, thank you so much for jumping in here, dude. Thank you for coming in and dropping some bombs. Appreciate you, brother. Love you. Hope you have an awesome weekend as well.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys. See ya.